Hi, in this video, we are going to discuss the hazard communication standard that is under the module regulation of a certified safety professional exam. So the purpose of this standard. So this is also this standard is still known as hazard communication standard, but it is unofficially known as the globally harmonized system. The purpose of this section is to ensure that the hazards of the all chemical produced or imported are classified and the information concerning the hazard classification is transmitted to the employers and employees. The requirement of this section are intended to be consistent with the provision of United Nations globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemical GHS revision 3. So the transmittal of the information is to be accomplished by the means of comprehensive hazard communication program, which includes container labeling and other forms of warning, safety data sheet, and employee training. Now the scope and the application of this standard. So this standard requires chemical manufacturer or importers to classify the hazards of chemical that they produce or import, and all the employers to provide information to their employees by the means of a hazard communication program. The hazard communication program includes not the less labels and other forms of warning, safety data sheets, and information and training. In addition, the standard requires distributors to transmit the required information to the employers. The employers who do not produce or import chemical need only to focus on those part of the rule that deals with establishing a workplace program and communicating information to their workers. So the employers are required to have a hazard communication program in their workplace and the proper communication to their workers. So now this standard requires the written hazard communication. So this written hazard communication standard, in this the employers are required to develop, implement, and maintain each workplace a written hazard communication program that describes how the program will be managed and operated, including the requirements for the labeling and other form of warning, safety data sheet, and employees information and training. This includes this uh, communication program includes a list of hazardous chemicals known to be present using a product identifier that is referenced on the appropriate safety data sheet. Then the second is the method the employer will use to inform the employees of the hazard of non-routine tasks, for example, cleaning of reactor vessel, and the hazards associated with the chemicals contained in unlabeled pipe in their work areas. The third, uh, the third is the multi-employer workplace. The employers who produce or store hazardous chemical at the workplace in such a way that the employees of other employer may be exposed shall additionally ensure that the hazard communication program developed and implemented are transmitted to those employees and employers. So basically the employer have to develop a written communication, a hazard communication standard, and they have to maintain in each workplace this communication program following these points. Now the next topic is about the labels and other forms of warning. So the chemical manufacturer, importer, or distributor shall ensure that each container of the hazardous chemical leaving their workplace is labeled, tagged, or marked. Hazards not otherwise classified do not have to be addressed on the container. When the chemical manufacturer or importer is required to label, tag, or mark, the following shall be provided: the product identifier, signal words, hazard statement, pictogram, precautionary statement, name, address, and telephone numbers of the chemical manufacturer or other responsible party. Now the next is the safety data sheet. So the chemical manufacturers and importers shall obtain or develop a safety data sheet for each hazardous chemical they produce or import. The employers shall have a safety data sheet in the workplace for each hazardous chemical that they use. The chemical manufacturer or importer preparing the safety data sheet shall ensure that it is in English language, although the employer may maintain the copies in all other languages, and in, this includes at least the following section numbers and headings and associated information under each heading in the ordered list below. The first section is the identification, the second is hazard identification, the third is composition information on the ingredients, the fourth is the first aid measures, the fifth is firefighting measures, sixth is the accidental release measures, handling and storage, exposure control, personal protection, physical and chemical properties, stability and reactivity information, toxicological information, and this hazard communication standard to be consistent with the globally harmonized system. The safety data sheet must also include the following headings in the order below. Like section 12 requires ecological information, section 13 disposal considerations, section 14 transport information, and section 15 regulatory information. So this hazard communication, under this hazard communication standard, uh, the employee information and training part is there. So the employers shall provide employees with effective information and training on hazardous chemical in their workplace at the time of their initial assignment, and whenever a new physical or health hazards the employees have not previously been trained about is introduced in their workplace. Now the training part. So the employee training shall include at least the following information: the method and the observation that they may be used to detect the presence or release of the hazardous chemical in their workplace, then the physical and the health hazard of the chemical in the work area, the measure employees can take to protect themselves from the hazards, including specific procedure the employer has implemented to protect employees from the exposure to the hazardous chemical. So the next is the detail of the hazard communication program developed by the employer, including the explanation of the labeling system and the material safety data sheet, and how the employees can obtain and use the appropriate hazard information. So the synopsis is the there should be a method to detect the presence or release of the hazardous chemical. There should be a training on this. Then the chemicals that are being used in the work area, their physical and health hazard information. Uh, about this, the training should be there, and the methods of protection that the employer has implemented in their workplace to protect its employee. So the employees should be trained about it, and the details of the hazard communication program developed by the employer, which includes the labeling system and the material safety data sheet. So the training on the labeling and training on the material safety data sheet, uh, so that the employees can effectively use all this hazard information.